crazy Ohio
Yeah,
players.
it would be interesting to, if we do get a chance to talk to everyone, maybe after the show, we kind of take a little roundtable discussion after the fact. But to see if, playing on a table for the first time, knowing that you are commentating and we have a ton of followers right now, does that play into the fact of I'm gonna try something that maybe I don't usually do, but I'm gonna see if I can get it done right now, just so I can live in the glory forever.
I mean, it could be. I definitely think that I've done a lot of TV poker before, and if we were playing a 2,500 cap game, I would, this would be one of the probably most aggressive games I've seen on the turn for sure.
That's interesting. How much do you think that our players, knowing that Bart's here tonight and looking at their play and analyzing their play, do you think that that's affecting the way some of these players will make moves?
Yeah, I think when they go back and watch us, then if Bart says great play, I think you're gonna be sitting in their chair fist pumping all day. So I definitely think I think we'd be naive to think that this whole situation, playing live for the world to see, doesn't play into fact into some of their plays.
Interesting. I never really thought about that going into the psyche of the players tonight.
Right. Well, I mean, for so many times it's just been us and our friends out here on this table, a bunch of people that know each other. Well, now we got some different dynamics of some of these guys know each other from the shoe, but I don't think anyone here at this table is getting beers together ever. So it's not like it's BFFs hanging out.
Now this is an interesting one here. Zach called with a really speculative hand heads up, but these guys are deep. He turned the best hand here. If this gets checked down, I think Zach should bet out 15 or 20 here, because he's got to have the best hand here with the 7. Chris' hands look so much like ace high. But what I was going to say was, if Chris had checked to me on the flop, I think Zach missed some value on the turn around the river. Mm-hmm. But if Chris checked to me and I called with 7-4 of clubs, knowing that I'm not necessarily just trying to hit the value of my hand, I'm betting that flop. I've got all kinds of backdoors. Any card between a 5 to a jack or a club is going to give me some equity. And if another rag comes on the turn, he's not going to check call twice with ace high. I don't think so. So, if you're going to call with a speculative hand like that, you've got to kind of know how to play it sometimes when you miss too.
Right. That's what I kind of talk about in other broadcasts. People play hope poker. They hope to make these pairs or make these make these hands that have semi-bluff equity or something like that, instead of actually playing your opponent. If your opponent is checking to you twice, I mean, obviously you got to reevaluate. You didn't flip a flush, or you didn't flip a straight, or anything like that. You have to reevaluate each street and find the best way for you to win. Carl just seems like he just loves to defend anything in the big blind.
And to me, that's so not him. That's why I'm interested to see this tonight. He just completed that with King Deuce, and I think that's an insta-muck for him.
Well, Zach bet the turn after checking back the flop, which is a pretty credible line to ace high, and now he just gives up here at the end. And Carl wins it with King Deuce. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely tag that away mentally if I'm Zach or anybody else, that this guy is very wide out of the big blind. And I don't think I've seen an open size that's different than 15 here from any of these guys, which is kind of surprising.
The occasional 20, but 15 has been majority of raise sizes. Again, we'd like to thank everybody that's new to the chat tonight and new to the stream. This is pretty amazing. All you guys hanging out.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. For those of you that are new, we're here every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We don't always have an illustrious Bart Hanson with us, but we do tonight. But feel free to come watch poker action every Tuesday night.
Bro, the aces now.
Versus Chris is 6. 3 bets him.
Well, I mean, it's 40 more here for Chris. You know, he's probably deep enough to set mine. The issue is that you don't always have to call with a small pocket pair when you open and somebody 3-bets you, even if you are deep enough. It really depends on how wide you think your opponent is, the skill level of your opponent, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if I know my opponent has aces, I would call. I mean, in an ideal world, you want to set mine against somebody that is only usually raising or 3-betting with a premium hand and is not going to fold. If you're just playing it to hit set value.
Trying to figure out if Chris is kind of saving face here. Before, oh no,
I gotta tell you, I like the way that I like Brad's value bet sizing over the course of several different hands. That's a bad card for Brad here in terms of if you think that Chris has like a hand like 8s, 9s. It's just too good for your range. Now you can debate whether you quote unquote check this back or not. I don't think you can really get any more value if you check it back and he's got like 8s on the river. I would just continue to bet and bet small. There's just nothing you can do. It's just it's unfortunate. I like the sizing. That's 105. He's making it look like there's a possibility that he could be bluffing here. I really like the sizing. You know, so often we see guys, especially older guys that play, you know, pretty nitty, you know, raise it to 40 pre-flop at 2-5 with aces, you know, and get 2 callers and then bet 200 on the flop. That's not... You know, that's not the way to go. You're getting everything weaker than you fold.
Before, right?
Yeah, people are allergic to value. Well, I'm guessing Brad's pretty glad he got the call today. He said, "Hey, we might need a player or two." Brad's hoping he can do this every night of the week.
Yeah, I think he's up for poker anytime.
That's right. So to pull him off the golf course, apparently.
15.
And no fun for Pete.
So I don't know, do you guys talk about this on the show? I'm sure you have in the past. Like, this is a no-rake game, so it's totally, you know, legal above board to just, you can run a game out of your house with no rake, basically, in Ohio?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just a media company showing a poker game. So this is basically, in essence, them getting together, having a game. You know, no one's making money off this game.
Right.
And they're just having a good old time. No tips.
I've seen some people in the chat say, "Why don't they have cocktail waitresses?" And I'm sure that probably would be against the law.
We gotta bring
I don't know,
in
maybe you could provide booze. I don't know. It's probably different in each state.
the masseuse. We've been asked, where's the masseuse girls?
I mean, I'm flattered the fact that people think we are actually in a casino. That makes us feel pretty good about our quality here.
And that's one of the goals that we'd love to do. We'd love to take our whole setup to a casino and broadcast high stakes games there. Big tournament final tables.
High stakes, low stakes, doesn't matter. I mean,
Looks like, yeah, Rudy's got the bottom end of a gutter to a 9, and he thinks better of drawing to that. But that's one where, again, I keep saying this word delayed continuation bet. If I was in Chris's spot, I actually might delayed continuation bet that board. I might check ace 3, you know, against a player that's not going to bluff at it for the most part, not going to turn like 5-6 into a bluff. And then if my opponent just checks it back, well, now I just bet the turn, and now I haven't risked anything, as opposed to risking a flop bet.
Exactly.
Like Eric and Jeremy, I think they're watching.
And then, you know, if you get stubborn and you keep blasting away, that pot just keeps bigger and bigger, and before you know it, you're needing to jam river to have any sort of chance to win.
Maybe after the fact, I will bet on a lot.
We've actually had some trouble with our past games. The last hour, people just kind of locking it down. And I was wondering if we were gonna have that problem tonight. We were talking about possibly incorporating an ante during the last hour, but the way the play's been going so far, I don't think we're gonna have much trouble that last hour tonight.
That would be interesting. What kind of ante size were you guys talking?
Just $1 per person. Just bringing a middle.
$1 per hand?
Yeah. It was just something we were kicking around.
That's a big ante. I mean,
yeah.
You know, you're talking about it costing $7 a round right now. If then it's costing double, so you're almost making the game twice as big. I mean, not necessarily, but if people actually know what's going on,
right.
You could make the ante probably 1/10 actually. I don't know if you have 50-cent chips, or you can make some 50-cent chips.
We might have some floating around somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Carl looks like that one comedian, and I cannot place his name right now. He's like the little, like, he's a little bit more rotund, and he has that little, almost hipster mustache. And I feel like Carl looks just like him. I wish I could remember who he was.
Look at this. Jesse turns it. Zach, I think, stabbed at the flop. Is that right? He didn't check call. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He just stabbed at it. Yeah. And again, that actually shows me seeing the cards that there are some pretty decent players here, because it's got nothing to do with what Zach has. It has more to do with the texture of the board. You'd be surprised at how many pots I steal out of the blinds if it gets limped around, if I think that the texture of the board is such where I can just bet out and take it down a lot.
If you wanted to, would you want to kind of explain what kind of textures you're looking for?
Well, firstly, I only do that probably if it's like maybe 3-handed or less, and I'm one of the people.
Right.
And yeah, you can do it like on ace high or king high boards. You can also do it on boards that are just basically not connected.
Mm-hmm.
Ace 7 deuce, king 7 deuce, 9 deuce 3, things where they're not really gonna call unless they have top pair.
Okay.
Because there's just not that much out there.
65.
Again, the problem with playing in LA is that if you do see a flop, half the money's down the drop for those limp pots.
Right, exactly.
Especially at 5-5. 5-5, the drop's the same as 5-10. It's $6 plus 1 for the bad beat jackpot. So if you get a guy that limps in, and the 5-5, the small, and the big blind check, they take 7 out of 15 from the pot.
So Chris opening the hijack, and Pete just 3-bet from the button. Chris decided to let it go.
Nice hand, Pete.
Rudy's been kind of quiet.
Yeah, he kind of does that. He early on, I think he just just full of himself and ready to rock and roll. Then he kind of settles in and just kind of forgets he's kind of playing the game.
This game means something. It's foreign. Yeah.
Well, I think Dan left to go wrangle in Paul Boston to come join me, but meantime, it's just Bart and I hanging out with all you viewers tonight. So thank you for hanging out with us.
Sounds good. It looks like you guys have crushed your viewership record here tonight.
Quite thrilled. Very, very happy about that.
Joe finally figured out how to put the cards in the spot. Now he only knows board. No.
Like Zach's gonna make a continuation bet here, and Jesse
Oh, yeah?
has got low pair and a
Sold out in like 30
gutter,
seconds.
bottom end of a straight draw.
Oh, Zach makes a pair.
Better company. Every year they have like a.
So the closest casinos though to you guys is in Cleveland, right? Is it the Cleveland casinos?
Yeah, the horseshoe there.
So why can they get a casino in your area?
Um,
It's just not enough people, maybe,
Well,
where
the Cleveland
there's only
Casino,
so many.
Cleveland Casino, they put actually an old department store, so they didn't build anything new. They just kind of put it in existing structure.
Mhm.
So I think they're still kind of feeling it out to see if this is a profitable thing for Ohio. Because I know like after the first couple of years, we were way behind predictions.
Projections or
Yeah,
something.
and all
Yeah.
that. So there's been talk of possibly putting one in Akron, but it's one
Is
of
there
those-
any talk about online poker in Ohio? That seems to be a state I don't know anything about or haven't heard anything about.
It's wh-
Because as long as they're land-based casinos, I figured there must be some discussion.
I think like they keep talking about us being like on that second tier. So like
Mhm.
you know those next ones that go like I heard Pennsylvania is like one of the, like the key ones. I think once they see kind of surrounding states and maybe like that next wave of 2 or 3 other states kind of get into it, I think Ohio's like thinking like, oh, after we see what everyone else is doing, maybe we'll pull a trigger. But we're not really like one of those trailblazing type states. We're more like, oh, we'll see how it works for you guys, then we'll hop in later.
Yeah. So it looks like Brad raised this one here with Ace Jack, and he hits trips
Yeah,
out of
he
C8.
just keeps it going.
Yep. You know, and here it's just one of these things where, yeah, you're lucky to hit trips, but, you know, in order to get money, someone else is going to have something.
Right.
And just, you know, unfortunately, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Brad's looks like he's playing the most out of everybody right now, but it just turns out he actually has had it like almost every single time.
Sure.
So I wonder if like, people will start playing back at him, just because he hasn't really shown down a whole lot. He just keeps scooping. So we'll see if you know some of these other young guns, if you want to call them that, will start messing with Brad a little bit in his fancy tailor-made visor. I would like to welcome my my co-host here, Mr. Paul Boston. Welcome in, my main man.
Glad to be here. Should be fun. Hoping to learn a lot. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut most of the time and listen.
Paul Boston, that's not like your last name is actually Boston. It's not like Alan Boston where you're from Boston. They just call
No,
you Boston.
No, my last
Okay.
name is Boston.
Okay. Are you familiar with Alan Boston?
No, I'm not.
No? Okay.
He actually
He's,
changed his last name due to
he's a
his love for the
character.
cream pies that they make in Boston.
All 14 and not go to the bathroom unless my struggle. Cycle more hands. Try to get the straddle on for 90 minutes and then go to the bathroom once you're struggling. Strong like that. Very strong.
Is this correct? Is this how the hand went? Undergun with 5-9.
There is a round of straddles going on. They put a round of straddles on to try and juice up the game a little bit. It was starting to slow down.
So it just went, basically everyone folded, and then the straddle checked, and yeah. Rudy bet, and Chris raised with air, and he actually gets it done there. 9-5.
I guess, I mean, that's part of what we were talking about earlier with his image. No, he hasn't really done a whole lot for like the last hour and a half or so. So it looks like when he puts in a raise like that, it looks like super, super strong. There's a shot of our chip counts. Beat still on top there. Chris not too far behind. So we got a decent amount of money on the table right now. It didn't hurt that Ryan dropped his 600 pretty quick and spread it amongst the other players.
Ryan and Mark both. Real quick.
I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break, and I'll be back in just a second.
All right.
Sounds good. So these guys are sticking with the 3X here with the round of straddles, open size to 30. And it looks like we're going to see our first limp re-raise.
Oh, wow.
No, it's not a limp re-raise. It's out of the big blind. I'm sorry. Chris is going to make it 125 here with ace queen off. And Pete also has ace queen here. And I believe he was the initial raiser. So he made it 30. You got callers in between. Chris makes it 125 as a 3-bet, and it's probably going to get through. The only thing with straddles that I have an issue with, it might be good for a game like this, is that when somebody suggests straddles when the stacks really aren't all that deep, and then it's just...
It just kicked a little bit.
I mean, if you want to play properly, you just can't really play any hands at all.
Right. Yeah, like I said, they were getting real bored trying to do something.
Yeah, no, this is definitely not your typical 2-5 kind of action game. I mean, I don't really see really any weak players in this game. You know, even if I was playing a 5-10 game at the Commerce, there'd be better tables than this one. You know,
really?
in terms of the skill level, yeah, for sure. Better in terms of there would be better tables in terms of
to play
worse players.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, I know what you meant.
You got everybody else? All right, 30 now. 30 ready.
Zach makes it 30 with ace-5 of clubs here. And folds around. Yeah, things have really slowed down since this first few hands out there. I thought we were going to have a crazy night.
Word of advice for the main event: don't drink a lot of water.
Welcome back, Trevor.
Thank you very much.
2-3-minute walk each way.
I'm about 2/3 through a liter of water, and I think it just needed to find its way somewhere else.
Soda break, you got no shot. It's going all the way to Buzios by the.
How are we doing on the viewers tonight?
I think we have quite a few, like well over a G.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
I think it topped out at about 1370.
Wow.
I've got the chat up here.
That is pretty awesome. Yeah, I think our previous high was, I want to say like 240, 250, something like that. So
Yeah, I was going to say that's about 5 times as big as our highest was.
I guess we're going to say that I think your name carries a little weight on Twitch. Wouldn't you say?
Well, hopefully. I mean, I think that there is a possibility that somebody might be hosting this too, which is kind of cool too, obviously on Twitch. I actually was going to host it, but I thought we had that audio issue in the beginning, so I'm not. So, yeah, I don't know. It's cool. On the top of the list on 2+2, which is pretty cool too, obviously, because, you know, people on 2+2 look at it, it says poker on air, and you just click on it, and they're like, oh, wow, it's an actual poker game, not some guy in his pajamas, you know, with a headset playing over like a 25-cent, 50-cent game on Bovada, you know?
Right.
We just had a 4-bet here.
Yeah, so
Pete raised, got re-raised by Zach, and Pete 4-bet it to 255.
So I'm guessing Zach is a straddler. Is that why?
I'm not sure.
I'm guessing if they ever ran a straddle.
He was under the gun, so that would have been a straddle, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 4-bet.
Hard
Like
swallow
raise,
by,
re-raise, raise. Yep.
By Pete there.
The other thing, guys, about a straddled game is that, you know, you would think, now, wow, is Zach going to put in 5 bets here with ace-7?
I think
or is he calling
I
because
think
he thinks
just
it's
called?
Wow, that's interesting.
No. Look, they're kind of
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Like just judging by like how Zach has played so far, I don't think he would ever be like in the realm of ever just calling there. No,
I wouldn't think so. But again, I mean, the times that I've seen 5-bet bluffs in 2-5 games are just so few and far between. It's really, really interesting how kind of what I would say tough this table is. What I was going to say too about straddle pots is that when you have straddles, you know, it should make the game twice as big because the blinds are twice as big, but usually it doesn't, in the sense that, well, not necessarily the size of the game, but people don't get it in with the same ranges. So if the guys get 1,500 and then all of a sudden you're playing 2-5-10, well, they're 150 big blinds deep at 2-5-10, but they're 300 big blinds deep at 2-5. But people aren't getting it in like they have 150 big blinds with 1,500. They're still treating it like it's 300 big blinds.
Right.
So that's the thing. With a straddle pot, they don't necessarily make the adjustment, but I mean, it's kind of tournament style sizing you know, from Zach. Like, I don't mind it. And now Pete is just like, all right, well, that's it. 6-bet, and then Zach folds. And I guess Pete had resigned himself to the fact that if he was beaten with jacks, he was beaten, because I don't think he was folding after that.
The coy little smile from Pete as he shows it.
Wow. I was about to say that's our first ever 5-bet. Now it's our first ever 6-bet.
Yeah, you probably don't see a whole lot of that at 1-2, I'm sure.
No.
Not too often.
But I actually think that you guys doing all those 1-2 games are great. I mean, that's what really interests me in your show. I mean, I had been familiar with your show for quite some time, but to actually see a live 1-2 game with a little bit of stack depth, I mean, that's where a lot of people start that want to learn the game. This game is definitely advanced. I mean, like I said, I'm going to say that this is a tough table, but I'm really looking forward to watching a lot of your content on 1-2 and hopefully making some Crush Live poker videos kind of on the low stakes with them.
Right.
With, about those videos. Sick Jones says, how big was the 6-bet? It looked like he came back over the top for maybe almost like a min click back to like 850, but at that point, I don't think he's gonna fold.
What's up, Kev? Thank you for the follow.
Decent, look at Carl.
Decent turn card.
Sick turn.
Underboat. Not all that deep here.
Nah, Carl's getting short.
So Jesse just checked the turn, it looked like. Is that right?
Yeah, he checked.
He checked and Carl bet 115.
Carl threw it out there.
And if you're Jesse, you just really don't beat, from what we've seen from Carl, you don't really beat anything here. You don't beat an 8. I don't know if Carl is like firing 115, basically committing himself with like 9-10, or if he's the type of player that's floating. And that's a good fold there. Again, like I said, I think that these guys are pretty competent here. I can tell.
Which is different because we saw earlier, Jesse was calling pretty quick with like a pretty weak top pair against Carl. So he obviously figured something out in that hand that allowed him to make a proper fold with top pair there.
Well, yeah, I think it's just a different situation. I just think that, you lead out with, and then you check to the guy, and the guy bets out huge, like he's not going to fold. It's, it's either going to be he's got an 8, he's got a better jack, he's got 9-10, or I guess he's got pocket 3s. Wouldn't have thought that, but
I say it's okay. I like saying two pairs like sarcastically. I hate saying, oh my god. I'm never being serious when I say it. Two pairs like sounds like kind of like joking around, yeah.
Can you go live straddle?
Looks like Brad's gonna get after it here again.
30. Call.
Fold on a 3 turn. How do I?
Brad with the raise with Jack 10 off, 30, and Zach makes a call with King Jack of clubs.
Hold on, man.
Your kicker must have been super bad.
Nah, it was really good.
And flops top pair.
I mean, if you're Zach, I mean, it's always a really, really good plan.
I don't usually find too many. I only get short stacks. I'm more dangerous than big stacks.
45.
I mean, it's, I'm probably going to check call here a lot. Almost always with King Jack. I mean, I don't want to say always, but I just don't really see a purpose in raising. That's about as bad a card as Brad can see.
Not too many worse cards than that.
Well, I can see, wow, it's going to work. I was going to say, I can kind of see what Zach's doing. He's actually throwing out almost like a reverse block, like, I'm going to just like, I'm going to throw out 30. You make a play at me because I've got a full house. And it looks like it's going to work here.
It's going to work, I think, yeah.
105. 75 more.
I'm not exactly sure what Brad is thinking. If Brad thinks that Zach is reverse floating him and then betting out, or betting out with 8s or something like this. I mean, but that's what Zach was doing, and the reason why this works is because of the very, very weak sizing, and he nonchalantly calls. And now, if you're Brad, you got to be done with this hand, because this guy either has a king, or unlikely he's got a 6.
I hope that doesn't cost Brad too much.
Good.
Nah, yeah, he's just
I
gonna
think once he gets called on the turn, I think he just knows it's over. The jig is up. I mean, not everyone realizes that, but Brad definitely had the.
Sometimes he doesn't, though. I've seen him a few times go a little crazy with hands like that.
Yeah, I think he just knew like there was a certain point, like just stop. Like you're just torching everything you had in front of you. So.
Live straddle. First time since 1980.
Zach's stacking back up now.
Yeah, Zach's almost back to even. Really, like Carl's like the only one that's really like super stuck right now.
Yeah, he rebought too. Rudy's been playing kind of snug tonight, hasn't he?
He started off like, playing his typical bulldog Rudy style, where he doesn't like to fold ever, and then he hasn't had a whole lot to work with, but at the same time he hasn't really played that same style since.
What's that?
Rudy made it 55 with 8s.
Big Sammy Hagar fan apparently.
Can only be one hand. Pocket 9s.
That's a pretty good read.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the new followers coming in. We appreciate it so much.
He was around the other day, and
You can find us here every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time.
But he won't play now that it's 500, I don't think.
Playing mostly Hold'em, but every now and again we do mix in some Omaha. I think we'll probably be doing that in maybe 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. I think possibly next week might be doing a sit and go style.
3.5 hours.
But tonight is a live 2-5 cash game.
Where do you get your Omaha players from? Is it the same people?
Kind of, yeah, similar. It's just one of those things like
2 or 3 of them are the same.
Yeah, we kind of try to find like who's interested in the area, and then we just kind of branch out from there.
Yeah, a few of them play fairly regular at the local casino, and they know some guys that play up there.
Oh.
You were watching that night, right? Right, Bart? You were in the chat.
I was, yeah.
How long were you there for? Quite a while, or did you see
A little bit, maybe an hour or so.
Who was our crazy guy we had?
Mickey.
Mickey. I knew it was like an interesting name. He was I mean, I'm no expert in Omaha, but I don't believe he is playing correct. But the funny thing about Omaha,
I can't remember that.
Funny thing about Omaha, he was the money was flowing his direction.
Well, there's so much variance in that game that you can definitely have people that are playing pretty crazy win a lot in one session.
Yeah, I think he pretty much was in his mind. He was just like torching his first bullet, but he got it in and just backdoor
kept winning.
Backdoor to flush.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
He's got like he like 200 bigs in pre-flop somehow, and just got there.
Well, Jesse here checks back ace king on ace queen queen, and it looks like Pete now has a diamond draw.
Cutting out 80 there. 65.
It's interesting. I wonder if Pete ever has enough. It looks like he's a mover and a shaker sometimes. I wonder if he's ever considering check raising here or just folding. I don't necessarily know about calling. Yeah, he just gets rid of it. I mean, he could be drawn dead.
Oh,
but Zach calls.
Zach comes along.
That's really. Now is Zach gonna rep diamonds here, or is he gonna play like just gonna bet the river here?
No, he just checks. Like
I don't understand that at all, because if Jesse checks back the flop and bets the turn, he's either going to have like kings, some sort of ace that he might have checked back. Like it's not, I don't think he's checking king jack and then betting the turn. I guess it's possible, but it's very, very unlikely.
And he made the call.
Oh, he does call.
Wow. I guess he might have just had some sort of read where he was, off. thought that Jesse might have been like betting on the come with diamonds or something like that, but you know, it's one of those things that sometimes like you don't really know what somebody's thinking about. You know, he might have picked something up.
Well, he picked Jesse's bluff off earlier when he first sat down too, for a pretty big pot.
I think, but in my mind though, I think that Jesse would have less propensity to do it twice.
Oh,
so
I agree.
The fact that he thought he was gonna get it through another time, it seems it was not very likely. What a heck of a shot of us.
Well, I wasn't even watching.
I get lost in my own eyes.
I was dozing. Looks like the straddles are off.
Now that it did add a little bit of spice.
15.
That's a problem we've been having in a lot of these games. Right at the last hour, hour and a half, it just really slows down.
I mean, nobody's really gotten up from the table to like stretch or take any sort of break, so maybe they're just winding down a little bit. If they know 1,300 people are watching them, that might spark it up again, but.
So Zach's the raiser here with 5-7. Everyone's got a piece of it here. Zach open-ended, Rudy top pair, Carl second pair.
Top pair is about all Rudy needs at times.
The only thing for Zach is you got to recognize that Carl's kind of short. If Carl stays in there, nope, he folds. Now I love this spot. If oh, excuse me. You know what? Rudy let out and Zach raised.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. I was gonna say I love this spot if Rudy just calls. And there's the straight.
There it is.
Yep. I actually really like that play by Zach on the flop. It's a play that I would probably make with the same hand. Rudy's gonna lead out. He's gonna have an 8 a lot. We're gonna be able to fire a lot of big turn cards. It's gonna scare an 8 away. Rudy's not gonna really know what we have here. We hit now. Basically, what is the nuts almost.
Mm-hmm.
Rudy might continue to call here. You know, hands with an 8 in it kind of hit into there. You can see that he picked up a gut shot now to a 7. I really do like that play by Zach. Raising basically what we call kind of in poker terminology, a donk lead, which means that someone's just kind of betting out at the pre-flop raiser.
Wow, I'm actually surprised there that Rudy folded. Sometimes Rudy needs a crowbar to get off top pair.
Yeah, he can get a little sticky.
Even when it turns.
Look at our chip count there. Pete up to 2,100.
And Chris is still up over $500. I mean, he won that pretty big pot early on, but he's just kind of been chilling with his profit. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, here Brad picks up another hand.
Brad has had aces, kings, ace king, and now queens.
15.
Which is funny because that was Carl's original seat, and he moved out of there for whatever reason.
Oh, we can see some fireworks
Yeah,
here.
Here we go.
40.
I am surprised that the 3-bet sizes have been kind of small.
Now remember, Zach had like 1,500, you know, not too long ago. But remember, he bluffed with the ace-7.
Right.
He just called down. That might have been the other. He might be on tilt that he just called down with the 3-4 as well.
Rudy calling the 3-bet with ace-9.
In the worst position.
That's definitely going to be a very, very questionable play, especially at this table.
Brad 4-bet here, you think?
I don't know. I mean, he might be kind of curious what the heck is going on with Rudy next to him.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really give somebody credit for flatting with kings and aces in this spot all that much.
And
I wouldn't be overly concerned with Rudy. You know, you can go either way with it, but if I saw Zach 6-bet fold ace-7, I might put in the extra bet. Oh, wow, what a flop. Oh, man.
Wow.
Middle set over top and bottom against ace-king. And you wonder if Zach can get away from this, though. And now Rudy does the donk lead again, but this time he actually has it, though. He's got a strong hand with top and bottom. See, it's just a matter of time before all the cards connect. Now, I think that Zach might be able to get away from this one, especially if Brad raises right now.
Because definitely, you know, queens, ace queen definitely fall into his flooding the 3-bet range.
And he does raise.
Now, remember, if you're Zach, you just bluff raised Rudy, so you wonder if Brad's doing the same thing. I don't think so. And you know, it's up to 260.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
and Zach just instantly gets rid of it.
Yep.
I don't think Rudy will though.
No, there's no way that he's. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I think if Rudy would have folded there, I think we would have broke the internet.
All in a call.
Yeah. And Rudy is drawn to 2 outs. Because, actually, he's drawn to one out, right?
Yep.
Because one of the
aces is gone.
One of the aces is dead, or you need running 9s. Oh, there's 1 9. An ace or a 9?
Wow.
Nope. Oh, that would have been crazy.
Been
That's what they would have called a Bartgasm if people know me 5 and 9 on the river.
I think Brad actually had him covered there. Did Brad just say cold deck?
Did he really?
Cold deck, man. Sorry about your loss.
Well, that's the problem with calling ace 9 with a 4-bet. Or a 3-bet.
Brad doesn't see any problem with it.
Well, no, but you get yourself in trouble. Calling 3-bets out of position with ace 9.
Especially when we talk about the skill level of opponents. When you're up against a guy who's 3-betting with ace king, who's capable of folding on an ace high board.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty good sized pot there. Almost 1,400 in that pot.
Yeah, I think he came to the table with 6.
600, yeah.
Careful.
And told everybody that wanted to listen that these stakes were too big for him, and he didn't even know if he wanted to play.
Oh, that's well, good for him.
Who said that?
No, that was Brad.
Oh.
Brad's not quite accustomed to playing this level, so good for him.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's played 2-5 before.
So Bart, I have a question for you. When do you think it's a good idea to donk lead? Unless that's too general of a question.
Well, are you asking me that question? Because I think that the question I saw on Twitch was, what do you do against a donk lead? But I can address them both if you want.
If you want to, yeah. I mean, it looks like they're doing something at the table right now, so if you want to kind of lead us in this spot.
I mean, you know, it's kind of a complex question, but sometimes I will quote unquote donk lead as a bluff against somebody that I know is never going to play back at me. So, you know, if the board comes out rags and I didn't flop anything and I'm out of position, I might just bet out. And I know the guy's not going to call me with ace king or ace queen.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it comes out one of those textured cards where if it comes out like, you know, king 7 deuce, and I know the guy's never going to call me with anything but a king, I might donk lead out. But usually my donk leads are for value. And they're usually with big hands because I don't want to check raise my big hands because I don't want the guys to fold. So I want to take the line that has the least amount of fold equity, which is usually leading. I remember there was a hand at the World Series a few years ago, I think in 2013, where I had flat call the guy with aces out of the big blind, which is very, very non-standard play.
Mm-hmm.
And the board came out ace high, dry, ace 7 deuce, dry. And I basically got the guy to bluff his entire stack off with an overship on the river as a bluff by leading at him on the flop, on the turn, and on the river because I knew that he would never fold the pair, and he might not fold king queen, and he just wouldn't think that I was ever strong. So instead of me checking and have him check back like kings, queens, I thought it was the best way to get value, and he bluffed his entire stack off to me on the river with nothing. So I mean, it's, you know, that's one of those weird ones. But in tournaments, it's a little bit different because people in tournaments don't fold. But you know, in general, I just think it's more of you know, leading with a, you know, I do a lot of donk leading with value hands.
Do you ever do it in the sense that you'd rather retake control of a lead, retake control of the lead of the hand because you feel like you know, someone else was the opener and you kind of feel like you would want to kind of handle the ship, you know, on the turn and river? That ever been another reason to donk lead?
You mean that? Well, I mean that's just kind of another case for, you know, saying you're bluffing. I mean, that can gonna go in the same thing where, you know, you lead out on 9 deuce 3 and the guy calls and you think he's calling with ace high and you just continue to bet, you know, when rags come on the turn. So not necessarily the lead, because you can do the same kind of things too. I mean, there can be times when you can check call from out of position with nothing just to bet the river if you think that the guy, when he always checks the turn, he has nothing. So I mean, there's that too. You can plan 2 streets ahead. So like I said, a lot of my donk leading has to do with value hands. Now, the way I counter donk leading, like what Zach did, is that a lot of times guys who donk lead are not strong. So if they're donk leading like on an 8 or a 9 high board and I've got 2 overcards or any type of equity, it's a great spot to raise, because how much are they going to hold on for when it comes down to top pair, especially when top pair is going to change? Usually by the river on an 8-5-3 board like we saw before, an 8's not going to be top pair by the end.
Right.
So when we raise the flop, bet on the turn and bet the river, how much is a guy going to put in with 10-8, you know?
Yeah, how much heat can you really stand there when he only has, you know, pair 8s, which is at this point second or third pair.
Right.
Beat on the button with ace king.
That's one thing's kind of funny about Pete on our show. He kind of has like this reputation that he's like this wild player, but in all honesty, he just plays his cards pretty face up, not face up in a way, but like he's plays aces, kings, whatever, ace king. He plays them fairly standard, but people seem to want to pay him off for whatever reason.
Well, the few times they remember him just raising position, you know, which is never a bad thing. If it's folded around to you in the cutoff or the button, he'll raise it up no matter what he's got.
Right.
And that's all they remember.
Get your button if you want your hand.
Oh yeah.
Monster.
Yep.
Monster.
I've actually been pretty excited. We actually have had, for the most part, 0 glitches with the table tonight.
Oh, you mean like cards not registering or something?
Yeah, we started a game, I'll say a couple weeks ago, and we found out that the ace of clubs was not registering at all, and we're like, what? Why does this keep messing up? And we finally narrowed it down and had to use one of our old decks, but I think this actually is a new deck tonight.
Yeah, people don't realize that. What are these things? These decks cards run what, like $70 a pack or something like that?
About
Is that right?
a little over double that.
Oh, it's 140 a pack?
Yeah,
Yeah.
140, 150, somewhere around there.
You know, of course, the next step in all this is, you know, people have always said, oh, when do RFID chips come into play? But you know, that's almost like a whole nother level that I haven't really seen anybody do yet. So it must be somewhat complex.
They do have them, but they're expensive, and from what we
Right,
were
you need a lot of them too. It's not just like having 2 decks of cards, right?
And then you can't hardly stack them up. They could only read in stacks of 10, and
Oh, that's
only
crazy.
10 high,
Yeah.
so that's
It's very difficult for a cash game to do it that way.
definitely.
Yeah.
But I think this sounds like, you know, everyone keeps working on it, so right now we'll keep typing in manually, and then so far that seems to be working okay. A tedious job, but
yes,
Yeah.
it is.
we get it done.
Chris has got 9s here, and he raised to 20. How did you? I mean, in the hour that I watched the PLO game from a couple weeks ago, that's usually in my experience causes a little bit of a problem. Just sometimes not catching all 4 cards. How did that go?
That was the biggest problem we've had so far.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, it was actually kind of funny because it was just being just kind of just a pain in the butt. We kind of like massage the cards over the sensors, so it actually led to some pretty funny comedy. But yeah, the PLO night was definitely a little bit more difficult to on the table, but I think we're getting there.
90.
Now see, okay, so here we go. We get a donk lead here by Jesse.
No, he's
Chris
raising. Chris let out. Jesse raised.
Okay, I'm sorry. Chris let out. Jesse raised. You're right. I had the action opposite. Yeah, I'm not really sure what that he's trying to accomplish there, Jesse, by raising the flop.
Then check.
And now Chris is going to bet for value here. Let's see what his sizing is. I think he thinks that Jesse has like a hand like 7s, 8s, 6s. I think that's a little bit too big because the ace hits Chris's like bet call range on the flop. Right. But I've made some pretty super thin value bets on rivers like that with what is third pair. But you just got to make it tiny though, like really, really, really small. I mean, the other thing that people don't realize with PLO in this setup, which is, you know, becoming somewhat of a standard setup with these, you know, with the table and the cards. I mean, it's publicly available. You know, I know several different, you know, companies that do it, is that the cards themselves are physically bigger and the sensors are only so big. So when you give somebody 4 cards and it's PLO, they have to continue to look back at their cards too. It's not like No Limit where you look at your cards once and whatever, or you tell guys, hey, just try to look at your cards once and remember what they are. In PLO, people can't do that. You know what I mean? So they're constantly looking at their cards, putting them back in the sensor. Maybe they're not, they have to be perfectly aligned in the sensor. It's just tough.
It really, yeah, definitely. I think,
yeah, you know.
I mean, that's our problem. You know, our table obviously is handling, you know, 2 cards at a time. It's just looping that signal through all 4. I think just got just too much for it, and then that's where we're having some problems.
Yeah.
65.
We got a re-raise by Chris here.
Light 3-bet. Again, these guys started like just under 200 big blinds effective. And
now we got a 4-bet.
170.
Yeah, I mean, this is not any type of typical 2-5 game that I'm accustomed to in LA. I don't really play 2-5, but I mean, this would be what would look like kind of a, like I said, a table that I wouldn't play at 5-10. I mean, we've seen a 6-bet fold. We've seen several 3 and 4 bets. We've seen 3 or 4 raises on the turn that are semi-bluffs. Definitely not your typical 2-5 game.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of stuff we've actually had issues with some of the chat early on is, why don't you guys play higher stakes? Well, like
right.
The stakes are not what's important. It's the player type. You know, you guys can be playing 25 cent, 50 cent, but if the play is good, you know, the product will be good.
Good.
And it's tough for the average Joe to have this kind of money just to throw around too.
20.
Carl bumps it up on the button. Chris decides not to 3-bet this time.
I mean, Pete's almost got a month's pay on the table for me.
3 players.
I mean, if Carl is only 253 deep, I think Chris is making a mistake there, flatting for 18 more with Queen Jack. It's just, you know, it's too much of it's too much of Carl's stack, too much of the effective stack to call there with Queen Jack. I mean, you could almost make it a 3-bet small with blockers and then fold to a ship, but I'm never going to call there with Queen Jack with those stack sizes from out of position.
Just because you're doing that far too often.
Yeah, and then, you know, what do you flop a Jack or a Queen, you just go with it.
Right.
And look at this. Jesse's just making a check raise bluff. Again, like it's amazing. The levels of aggression I've seen with no cards here in this game is just ridiculous for a 2-5 game. It really is.
Oh, what does Carl do now?
Well, Jesse checked pretty quick.
It's gonna be interesting what Jesse. Yeah, but I mean, Carl's probably gonna check back in for full too. I think that Jesse, he's probably gonna give up, and I think I probably would too. King High is gonna win it, and you're like, oh, if you're Jesse, how do you check there? Because Carl's got way more aces than he has flush draws.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, just because you don't have showdown value doesn't mean that you have to bluff at it. So I don't mind Jesse giving up there at the end with the way that went down.
Yeah, I guess. He took a shot at it. Didn't work.
Hargo Bind Call. He says, yo, Bart, make some more 08 videos. I love the site. Thank you for that. Talking about, you know, my training site, Crush Live Poker. Well, I make 08 videos every third Thursday, so I've got at least 9 or 10 up there from Bovada, half limit, half PLO, and some very high stakes stuff too. You know, I not only do I play no limit cash, but I play a lot of 08 too. I've made 3 final tables of those championship events at the series. The 08, the big 08 events. Hopefully one of these times I'll actually take it down.
Probably this year, right?
But yeah, and PLO 8 is a game that I start to see creep into the mix a lot. So I'm actually going to be doing one tomorrow for Thursday. So there you go.
Yeah, I wish our software could handle that. That'd be fun to have a.
Oh, high-low. Yeah, I've
game.
never seen software. I've never seen them do high-low with the software before. So
We're trying to figure out ways to trick the software, but we haven't quite figured that out yet.
5 players.
I would love that. They'd have a hard time keeping me off the table. That's my favorite.
You like
game.
high-low games?
Oh, I love high-low games.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up playing.
Oh, look at this flop here, guys.
Oh, wow.
Bottom 7s here. Bottom full against Pete with ace-jack. And
They
two
both have
flush out there.
So much money from them.
Huge stacks, too.
Yep. Wow, that's a unbelievably optimistic c-bet there by Zach. I mean, into like 6 people. I think that's a little bit too optimistic.
Yeah, somebody's got an ace.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say, you know, you wonder if Brad raised and then Pete called, how is this action going to be? And now they're super deep. I've been pretty impressed by the way that Pete has played here, though. And I got to say that I wonder if Pete is going to kind of go into a check call shell here if like a blank comes on the turn. He's not going to necessarily check raise with ace jack. While the turn's a 3, so that's definitely going to shut the action down here for Pete because now he doesn't beat a flush.
Right.
Oh, I hate that check by Brad. Oh, see, I'm sorry. I thought Brad was in position. I thought Brad was in position. Brad's actually out of position. I thought I got checked to him and he checked it back. It should be a disaster, but this deep, he's got to build the pot up. But here, I assume that he's going for a check raise, gets checked through.
I'm curious to see what Brad sizes this as.
And now it's probably just going to go bet call. And if Brad bets huge, Pete might fold. Who knows?
Right. I was
you know what I mean? It's like what could have been. Oh, I just, you know, if Brad had just check raised the flop. This is why I'm such a huge proponent of fast playing. He could have built it up. I mean, it was really unfortunate for him to get that turn 3 of spades, but he would have still gotten another call on the turn, though. Instead, he's going to barely get a river call here.
Where's 2-5 kilo?
Yeah, Pete really mulling it over here.
I think, yeah. Good.
Wow,
fold.
and he folds, and Brad
Good
doesn't
fold.
get any value at all, actually. Obviously, Zach folds behind, and I think that Pete just figured out that this guy could have spades. It's probably spades that scare him way more than, you know, 7s full, but...
Yeah, his hand looked. I feel like it looked a little bit more like a flush draw on the flop, just flatting there.
Sure.
Then
That's
obviously the hand
definitely
he had.
one for Crush Live Poker for sure. But I mean, I am a big non-proponent of slow playing, especially with deep stacks. It's just, you know, and against competent opponents, you got to get some money in. And sometimes playing it more deceptively, playing it fast more deceptively is better than slow playing.
Yeah. Brad just keeps on stacking. He's gonna be a happy camper. We'll see him again on Monday for our Akron Poker League.
Here's the thing, you know, so Sippies, if I'm pronouncing that right, in the Twitch chat says, how do you fold trip aces there? Well, remember, you've got Zach, who bet, he's the preflop raiser from early position. He bet into 5 people. And then it gets checked through on the turn. There's a fairly good chance that Zach would have had an ace there anyways, too. Also, Brad called in the middle. I'll continue that in a second. So then when, or Pete called in the middle. And I'll get to this in a second here, because we got another hand.
Another one of brewing.
Brad with top pair and a flush draw out of seat 8.
Brad flops fairly well again.
Yep. Now, who was the pre-flop raiser here? Do we know?
Preflop raiser was Carl.
Carl with the king
Okay.
jack.
So if I'm Zach here, if I was maybe a little bit deeper, I might consider check raising here as a bluff. And this is what I'm talking about. We talk about texture because Brad fares to have an 8 here a fair amount. He's betting from late position. And if we check raise and he calls, he can't really hold on. We wouldn't necessarily know if his hand is as big as it is. But anyways, he just gets out of it, which might be the best play because he's got to bluff the image. But what I was saying before about that ace, jack, and 7s hand is that Zach's the one that looks like he's got an ace. He bet into 5 people. He raised pre, bet into 5 people. You call with 7s full, and then the guy to your left calls. Then the turn's a spade, and then it gets checked through. You're Brad, you check, it gets checked through. So now, or excuse me, you're Pete, it gets checked through. So now when Brad comes out and bets at the end, he's betting like he's not scared of ace jack because either one of those guys to his left could have had an ace, whether it was Pete or Zach. So that's why I think Brad was able to fold there.